That's number one. You kind of reset your
painful, tender to the touch. May also
same shoulder length, and the other.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Real Health Podcast with Brandy and Amir. I am Dr. Amir Rashidian, a chiropractor, and Brandy is an honorary doctor, not a true doctor, but
don't look up my credentials because you won't find any.
But a doctor in every sense of the word, that's just because of her intelligence and knowledgeable material and everything she does. But what we want to do today is, by the way, I have an announcement. Yeah.
Do I know?
Maybe. Yeah, you probably know. But first off, let me tell you, the Real Health Podcast is where we take all the latest information that you see in mainstream media, in the news, in newspapers, magazines. And what we want to do is read it, summarize it, explain it to you, let you know what it means to you, what it should mean to you, and how to apply it to your life to make your life better, to be healthier, to protect your family members, your relationships, your loved ones, just to live an enjoyable life. Our focus, our hope is that you'll use this information to feel better, get stronger, live longer, and feel younger. Mm-hmm. So speaking of looking better and feeling younger and all that stuff, I'm working on a new book.
Yeah.
So this will be the third book.
It's exciting.
And hopefully you guys have the other two books. If you don't, you can buy them. They're good. But this one, what I'm focusing on is why people's weight loss efforts either plateau or tank or fail. Or, why is it that the same weight loss plan works really well for some people, but not for others? And then you have these people who go, I've tried everything and it just doesn't work for me. I am just supposed to be this size or this weight. And so that's what I want to do. I'm playing with the title of 7 Simple Strategies to Weight Loss That No One Will Tell You Because They Don't Cost Money. So it's a long title. It's a working title. We're going to change it. But I've written out all the material already. Mm-hmm. I've got the outline. But now it's the tedious stuff of getting the research and the examples and illustrations and putting it into a book. So look out for that. I don't know when it's coming out. Probably be another year. But
we'll keep you updated, though.
As I do this research and put the material in, I'm going to do YouTube videos.
That's awesome.
Of everything that I'm learning and explaining in the book, so that you'll start to get bite-sized pieces of the book as we go. And then when the book comes out, if you want as a reference, you're welcome to get it. And maybe when we have our 150th episode,
woohoo,
we'll whoever's watched all the episodes will send you a copy of the book.
Absolutely.
So anyways, should we jump in?
I think we should.
You've been losing weight.
I'm definitely working hard. I had a couple weeks that were just really hard schedule wise, and I have just an amazing coach. I just love Jane. She's so great at addressing perspective and just really encouraging me to just continue, because life is life. It's busy and it's not perfect. And sometimes when, someone like me, I don't have a very set schedule and I have a lot on my plate between 3 kids and 2 businesses and church and PTA at school and school starting back up again. And all of that. Plus you still got to have fun, right? You got to enjoy life itself. So
there's no point living if you're not enjoying your life.
Yeah, 100%. So, with all of that, sometimes I have weeks where it just doesn't feel like I'm going to fit it in, and I just can't, because something else very important is going to fall. And so just knowing that you can only control what you can control in those moments, and staying the course, because that's where people end up failing and falling off, is going, oh, I did this for 3 months and I just can't fit it in, and I ate too much of that cake yesterday. I can't do this. Forget it. And they just, it's almost like we're looking for a reason to not be successful. It's like our own, mental block. And so to have somebody just go, okay, this is exactly what you were supposed to do. This is life. This is going to happen. But you stayed the course. You did the best you can with the time and resources you had available. and came out the other side. And I go, I may not have had a huge drop, but I didn't have a huge gain either. And I get to just pick up and continue the journey. And it's not like, oh, those last year was a waste. Nothing that I've done has been a waste.
Well,
It's slowly
yeah,
chipping away.
you told me all your measurements improved even though your weight stayed the same.
Oh, yeah. If you are on a weight loss journey and all you're doing is tracking your weight, you will be discouraged so often. So don't do that. Check your measurements, check those weekly, do photos of yourself, as hard as that is to see. When I had to do my photos for the first time, I said, the only reason I'm okay with this is because I will never see myself like that again. I will never take a picture and be
Isn't that a
that
great
weight
motivation though?
again. Yeah, that's huge. It's
Find
huge.
ways to motivate yourself.
Yeah.
Don't you have
It's not
to,
always the carrot. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's the stick.
right.
You know?
But even that, two people can look at their own picture, and one can get discouraged by the way they look, and one can do
Yeah.
what you do, which is, hey, I'm excited because I'm never gonna look like this again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next week I'm gonna look different. Every week I'm
Every
gonna
week
look
it's going to be a
different.
little different.
Yeah.
So
So that's so powerful. If you're struggling with anything with your health, just listen, every thought, decision, action moves you in one of two directions, away from your goals or toward it. And another point is, in Alcoholics Anonymous, everyone has a sponsor. And that's one of the reasons for their success.
Yes.
And so you need that coach, you need an accountability partner, you need a friend, you need someone that is allowed to ask you the tough questions.
Yes.
Did you do what you said you were going to do?
Yes.
How are you going to do next week? Here's my recommendation.
Yeah.
Those are huge.
and be willing to be honest with yourself and your accountability partner or your coach, because that's where your success is. Your success is where you can go, yeah, I was supposed to do that and I didn't. Right? It's not as opposed to going, I'll just tell them I did it. Like, it will always come out in the wash. They will always know if you weren't following, your plan, or you weren't doing what you were supposed to do. So,
Right.
but it's for you. Like, I'm worried about disappointing my coach, but really I should be most worried about disappointing myself,
Another concept is, if you want to achieve something, help someone else achieve that, and you'll get it too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would say that's very, very true.
Just because you got to get your focus off of you sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's why if you have a partner who is also focused on the same thing and you guys can hold each other accountable, that'd be pretty fantastic.
Now, I think what we should do, our next set of podcasts after this are really going to be focused on, and I know we mentioned this last time, but this is the last regular episode for a little while. We're going to be having some guests on. We're going to be talking about athletes, both professional and student athletes alike. And then I think after that, we should really hone in on weight loss.
Fitness experts.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it'll all tie in together, and that'll be
Yeah.
a nice next, thing to move into.
And loss might not be a good word. I don't like that word loss. So it's maybe recompositioning your body,
Yeah.
maybe becoming more fit. I am not a fan of being extremely skinny.
Correct.
I don't think that's healthy either. Any extreme is not good. But, ability to enjoy life.
Yeah.
One of my reasons for doing what I do is I want my outside appearance to represent who I am on the inside. And that's one of my motivations.
Yeah.
You have to have your own why, whatever that why is.
Yep.
It needs to motivate you and pull you, not push. Pushing is hard.
Yeah.
You should get pulled towards your goal.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So, moving on. Understanding, this is the article by Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Understanding sleep, activity, and circadian rhythms in major depressive disorder. This is big because there are so many people who are depressed today. It's amazing the number of patients we have who are on an antidepressant. I see the meds I see in everybody. So everybody's either on a depression medication, anxiety medication, blood pressure medication, cholesterol medication, or allergy medication.
And by everyone, we say the majority. We ask for our patients' med lists when they come in. So if we're recommending or prescribing any supplementation, that there's no contraindications and whatnot, and to find out how we can support their body systems.
Yep.
And it is unbelievable how many people are legitimately on
And we
at
reported on
least
this
one of
before,
those
how
medications.
allergy medication can increase depression.
Yeah.
because of the H1, H2, and H3 receptors, histamine receptors. Antihistamines only block the H1 receptor. H2 can cause stomach issues like acid reflux and indigestion, and H3 receptor will cause depression. So now this is sleep. So how does your sleep affect depression and major depressive disorder? The study included adults with both current MDD stands for major depressive disorder, and those with a history of MDD, but who were symptom free at the time of the study. MDD is a serious mental health disorder with symptoms that include a lack of desire to enjoy life and difficulty doing simple things like eating and being socially engaged. The researchers found that the amount and quality of physical activity and timing of both sleep and physical activity combined with the stability of their 24-hour circadian rhythm was a better indicator of MDD than any of these factors individually. How cool is that? It's never one thing. That's one of the things I'm going to write about in my book when I write the weight loss book, is that it's never one thing. It's always a combination of things. When you take a multi-pronged approach to it, you will be successful. They say if you want to improve by 100%, pick 100 things and improve them each by 1%. Improve 100 things by 1%. 1%
that is
improvement
so
is not
much
that hard.
easier than doing something
Drastic.
100% different than what you were to
Yeah.
do that. 180 flip
Right.
on something is so much harder. But 1%, just think about that. That could be adding one vegetable into one meal a week,
Right.
that you weren't doing before.
Wellness practitioners, naturopaths, chiropractors, we've all been saying this forever and ever. It's not one thing, but the medical community always says, "Oh, you have this, you just need to take this."
Right.
And this is what caused that.
Right.
Genetics. It's genetics. It's never genetics. With this knowledge, doctors can provide potentially more efficient MDD interventions, jointly targeting these aspects of 24-hour behaviors. They used a technology called accelerometry to measure sleep and activity. An accelerometer is a sensor that measures movement. It can be used to assess intensity and duration of physical activity, the amount of movement during sleep, and for other things. This built-in accelerometers can be found in devices like Fitbits and smartphones. In the study, we used a research-grade device called Gene Active to estimate both physical activity during the day and quality of sleep during the night. And again, I love that they understand what you do during the day affects how you sleep at night. We found that the amount of quality of physical activity and the timing of sleep and physical activity were the two most important components of 24-hour behaviors, both for people with MDD, major depressive disorder, and without it. So I'm going to say that one more time. The quality of physical activity and the timing of sleep and physical activity. So the quality of your sleep and physical activity and the timing of it were the most important factors. People with depression engaged in less physical activity, and it was of poorer quality and more fragmented. They also had later timing of both sleep and physical activity. Thus, late timing of sleep and physical activity or delayed circadian rhythm is related to a higher chance of having depression. We also found that people with current depression tend to go to bed and be physically active even later than those with remitted or depression that's in remission. So you just change some of those things.
Yeah.
It's like if you ask someone, and listen, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, so please, just common sense says, hey, was there a time in your life when you weren't depressed?
Right.
Yeah. What were you doing? Whoa, I was going to bed early. I was getting up early, and I was going swimming, or I was doing this, I was doing that. Okay. So can you force yourself to just do those things again?
Right. Yeah, because some people say, well, I can't, or I haven't since. But it's sometimes we don't know if it's the chicken or the egg, which came first.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to you have to do those things in order to get the result. And sometimes, the result of those or not doing those is what put us in that situation. So you really have to play with that and be willing to do the hard thing. Making your body or your mind do something that you're not in the state to do is not easy. So that's not what we're saying. But is it possible? In most cases, yes.
I agree. Do the difficult things, and they become easy. Jim Rohn, I think, said, in order for things to change, you have to change.
Yeah.
I think he said, in order for things to change, you have to change things in your life.
Right.
Anyways, our study adds to the existing literature that shows that not staying up too late and going to sleep at a regular time based on your body's natural clock may be a healthy sleep routine, and that the same may be equally applied to other daily routines, including physical activity. Clinically, it means that intervention approaches jointly targeting those aspects of the 24-hour behaviors may potentially be more efficient in prevention and treatment of depression and beyond. What is important to understand is that people working in the field of sleep and are typically focused on sleep, period. And physical activity experts primarily focus on daytime physical activity, period. In our work, we try to better understand the interplay between sleep and physical activity, looking at them as integral parts of the 24-hour daily cycle. You talk to any bodybuilder, they'll tell you if you are not sleeping, you are not growing.
100%.
Your muscles cannot repair. I try to apply this to everything in my life. And this is one of my personal affirmations. I always say I grow when I rest.
Mm-hmm. Well, we tell patients that too, that, their healing takes place between adjustments, right?
Yeah.
So it's not the adjustment itself that creates the healing. It helps create the environment for healing, just like being on a good sleep routine and physical activity during the day. To make that a part of a normal rhythm for yourself creates the environment for your mind and body both to heal and to function as they were intended to.
Yeah, and listen, there's a higher power in you. And I'm not talking about God. I believe in God. I'm talking about another power, and that power was created by God and put in you. And that power is called innate wisdom or innate intelligence. It's in your body. It's the same power that knows how to take. I remember Dr. Owens used to say this. He said it's the same power that has a cow. A brown cow will eat green grass, produce white milk that makes yellow butter.
Right.
It's all natural. That's wisdom. That's innate wisdom. That's nature. And so same thing with you. Listen, if you take a plant that's starting to wither, what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, it either needs sunlight, water, or better soil.
Right.
Doesn't need anything else.
Yeah.
That's it. So when you go, okay, well, I want this plant to come back to life. So you're going to put it in sunlight, you're going to give it more water, and you're going to give it better soil. And literally it will work. So why
you might even talk to it nicely.
Well, yeah, there you go. But why is a human body any different? Right. There are certain things that apply to everybody across the board, and people are like, oh, I'm different. Yeah, you're different because you're unique. Because God created you, just you. There's no other person like you. Even if you have a twin brother or sister, an identical twin, you're still unique. You're not the same. You know that. If you have a twin, you know you're unique. You're not the same. And so that's not what I'm talking about. But there are principles and powers at work within the body that apply to every person across the board, no matter what. Right. You're dehydrated, you need water. That's a fact. Doesn't matter what your race is, what your gender is, or any of that stuff.
Certain hormones need to fire at certain times for certain physiological processes to take place. We need vitamin D from the sun in order for certain hormones to even be, created in the body. So it's never one thing. No. Everything does work together in the body. And we're one of the only things that actually goes against our nature. We do things that are 100% against our natural processes, which might be why we see such great disease processes in humans.
And then there are those people who never get sick.
Yeah.
You just want to wring their neck. They eat whatever they want. They don't get fat. They,
Well, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, though.
that's right. That's right. Don't wring their neck.
Right.
It's unhealthy for you. Anger leads to depression and all of that stuff. Forget about it. Let them be. Be yourself. Interestingly, we learned that sleep timing, not duration, was related to depression status, which indicates that circadian misalignment plays an important role in
Ooh.
depression.
That's one of our favorite words.
Yeah. It's actually our enemy, misalignment. We like everything aligned. As chiropractors, we align it all. You show me
Right.
anything that's misaligned, I want to align it.
I want to line it.
Line it up. Some people naturally stay up later or rise earlier. There is nothing wrong with either, but look at your history. Did you shift to this late timing? Additionally, any amount of physical activity takes you in the right direction, especially for those who are highly sedentary.
Okay. So just in case everyone missed that, all activity, physical activity, is going to be beneficial. So
Yeah.
we were made and created for movement. Movement is life. If you are not moving, you are not headed in the right direction. Like we were not meant to sit behind a computer all day long and do nothing else. And if that is what your lifestyle is, that 1% might be getting up and moving every 30 minutes. And I mean, think about just that improvement right there and how that can increase your, what you need, calorie wise and what you're burning. And there's so many processes that are going to benefit from movement.
And I know some of the audience are public servants, firefighters, EMTs, police officers, emergency first responders. You guys are at tremendous risk because you're sitting in one place resting and then the alarm goes off and you go from 0 to 60 in a second.
Well, not to mention a lot of them also have shift work, so
They're not sleeping at the
circadian
right-
rhythm is
yeah.
totally thrown off.
Yeah, which is what I wrote my book about, and make sure you take a look. That's the one called "Cracking the Stress Secret: How to Turn Pressure into Power." But they expanded at the end of the article. They say we expanded this study to include people who experience ADHD, anxiety, and other mental health disorders. Our findings are very consistent across all 3 studies. So how cool is that? That are finally realizing if you have better daily habits and better sleep habits,
Yes.
you reduce not just depression but anxiety and ADHD.
Yeah.
And what was the other one? Other mental disorders.
So it didn't say if you sleep 8 hours a day. It
Yeah.
said make sure you go to bed at the same time every night. So
Not too late.
Yeah, not too late, but set your time. All of our somebody must know something, because if you check your alarms on your phone, most of them now have here, set your sleep time and your wake time to be regular so that we're meeting those rhythms. So even your phone knows that that's important.
Yep.
But most of us don't adhere to that.
As they call them, smartphones.
Yeah, they're smart. Okay,
They are very smart.
let's talk about.
You know what else is smart is the human body.
So smart.
But so the next one is from NBC News. The article title says Colombian families' genes offer new clue to delaying onset of Alzheimer's.
So interesting.
Very interesting. I have a problem with genetic stuff because I have a question that's never been answered.
What's that?
If Alzheimer's is genetic, why aren't we born with it? Because genes don't change.
Right.
You're genetically the same at age 100 as you are as day 1 you're born. Now, Down syndrome, whatever else, you're born with it, genetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're born with it and you have it your whole life, and that doesn't change. Although, there was a chiropractor at Kentuckiana who could look in Down syndrome kids' eyes and perform certain chiropractic techniques that would make them normal.
That's interesting.
Really powerful. She I never met her, but my instructors in the pediatrics diplomat program talked about her, and
Wow.
we saw some videos. Phenomenal.
Wow.
Phenomenal. But so that means genes don't rule our lives in
Right.
that case.
Right.
And then Tony Robbins and Bernie Siegel talk about how people, multiple personality disorder people, one personality has type 1 diabetes,
Yeah.
where their pancreas doesn't produce any insulin. And when the personality changes, all of a sudden the pancreas starts working.
Well, not only that, but they've seen eye color change, they've seen birthmarks appear and disappear.
Scars
Yeah.
appear
So
and disappear.
yeah.
There was a woman on Focus on the Family. She was being interviewed. She was abused by her father and grandfather, and every time she remembered a memory from that time, bruises on her thighs would reappear
Yeah.
from the times she was abused.
Just
That's the power of the mind. So
unbelievable.
do not say genes have confined you to anything.
I mean, it should actually be a liberating thought, because I don't know about you guys, but I would hate to think that there's something that is so far outside of my control that it could impact my health at a level where I can't come back from that,
I don't think
right?
God would create us that way.
Yeah, I agree.
No matter what you're dealing with, how you handle it is up to you.
Yeah. And that means mindset, and trust me, you're talking to or listening to a few individuals that know and understand how those disease processes can affect a family. Like I majority of the women on my mother's side have died of cancer, all diagnosed prior to the age that I am now. And everybody goes, "Oh, did you get the BRCA test? Did you do X, Y, and Z?" And I'm like, "Nope, I did not. I refused the test early on. They tried to test me when I was 19, and I said, absolutely not, because I don't want that in my head. The odds are I have the gene, but I intend on living life so vastly different from the women in my family that my goal is not to know if I have the gene. My goal is to keep the gene turned off, right? Because we know that everything that our body takes in as far as stimuli, it could be, environmental, it could be, things we hear, things we say, all of that can be impactful. The toxins, those are the things that can turn those genes on and off. So I just decided I'm just not going to do cancer. Now, somebody out there that, has been diagnosed, they're going to hear that and they might be offended by that.
I'm sorry if you are.
And I'm
We
sorry that you're
apologize.
going
Yeah.
through that. I know and understand what those diagnoses do to a family. But that is how I've dealt with that and dealt with the family history, is going, I know that epigenetics is a thing. I know that I don't have to have the same stress response that the other women in my family have had. So if I do things differently, then I have a chance of not having those same cancers come to life in my body. We all have cancer all the time. I'm just training
yeah.
my body to fight it off the best I can.
Listen, your autonomic system, your nervous system is divided into two parts. It's the voluntary and the involuntary. The involuntary part is the part that controls all your organs, glands, blood vessels, and functions like digestion and detoxification and breathing and heart rhythm and all of that stuff. That's automatic. That's programmed in you, those nerves. Now, that system has two sides to it. There's a side that is about healing, repair, regeneration, and there's the other side that's called fight or flight. Now, if you spend more time in fight or flight, you will activate all those genes that Brandy was talking about. All the bad stuff. You have to shift your body out of fight or flight. Yep. Fact is, the minute you get upset, you angry, anxious, worried. Worry is the biggest one. Financial issues. You can't stay in that, because even the Bible says, who of you can add an hour to your life by worrying? Sit here and worry. I was worried. I was having a moment with my dad once a while back. We used to split a beer. I've talked about that because he didn't want to drink too much. He was always worried about alcoholism. And so we would split a beer whenever we wanted to talk. And he saw I was worried. And so we split a beer, half a glass each of us. And we're sipping it and we're sitting together. And Dad goes, "So you're worried about money?" I go, "Yeah, we got some problems in the business." He goes, "What would you be doing right now if you had $1 million in the bank?" I go, "I'd be having a beer with my dad." He goes, "Well, then what's the difference?" And it made all the difference. All of a sudden I was calm. I was like, "Yeah, you're right. You're right." And then I realized all my medical training, which is, hey, this worry, nothing good comes out of it. In fact, worrying saps your creativity. If you can't be creative, you can't solve your problems.
Yep.
Because what did Einstein say? Your problems cannot be solved by the same level of energy that created them. So diseases are created by a certain amount of energy,
Yep.
right? Energy, vibration, thoughts, actions, choices,
Emotion.
behaviors, emotions, right? So you go, if I stay in those emotions,
Those
I am
negative
never going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
I have to change that.
Yep.
Joe Dispenza talks about this.
Yeah.
He says your personality creates your personal reality. Change your personality.
I mean, that's huge.
That is huge. That's what my whole book is about. Is why I wrote 2 books on stress. Is because stress can be good, it can be bad, right? But it's how you deal with it that makes it so.
Yeah.
Right? Some people can get sick under stress. Some people become very powerful under stress. Turn pressure into power. That was the title of the book, subtitle of the book. Anyways, so we went way off subject and totally on a tangent.
How we did that.
But that's because we are passionate and we don't want you guys to suffer. We don't want you guys to get sick. We want you guys to not enjoy your life. No matter what you're dealing with, you change your attitude towards it.
And that should be empowering because that means that you do not have to be attached to some of those negative outcomes. Like you don't have to, and whether or not one of us were to walk out the door and, get into an accident, it can happen. Any one of us could, there's a number of things, right? But if we know that with the right mindset, we can bypass some of those things, that should be appealing to most of us. Those that at least aren't locked in that negative mindset.
If you're open
should be
to
empowering.
It's appealing to everyone. So NBC News, Colombian families' genes offer a new clue to delaying onset of Alzheimer's. Scientists studying a family plagued by early in life Alzheimer's found some carry a genetic oddity that delays their initial symptoms by 5 years. The finding points to novel ways of fighting the mind-robbing disease. If researchers can unravel how a single copy of that very rare gene variant offers at least a little protection. The first hint of this genetic protection came a few years ago. Researchers were studying a huge family in Colombia that shares a devastating inherited form of Alzheimer's. I didn't know there were different forms of Alzheimer's. Like there's a devastating form and then there's a non-devastating form.
I would pretty much say any family who's dealing with any type of Alzheimer's,
They're devastated.
It feels devastating.
Yeah. Well, anyways, but apparently this family had the devastating inherited form of Alzheimer's when they discovered one woman who escaped her genetic fate. Aliria Piedrahita de Villegas,
We'll call her Illyria.
APV is her name. We call her APV. Should have developed Alzheimer's symptoms in her 40s, but instead made it to her 70s before suffering even mild cognitive trouble. The big clue? She also harbored something incredibly rare, 2 copies of an unrelated gene named APOE3 that had a mutation dubbed Christchurch.
That's interesting.
All one word, Christchurch. That odd gene pair appeared to shield her, staving off her genetic predisposition for Alzheimer's. Quiroz' team then tested more than 1,000 extended family members and identified 27 who carry a single copy of that Christchurch variant. Who names these genes?
I don't know. It's very fascinating.
Those Christchurch carriers, on average, showed their first signs of cognitive trouble at age 52, 5 years later than their relatives, concluded a collaboration that includes Mass General Brigham researchers and Columbia's University of Antigua. Kia. The findings published in the New England Journal of Medicine are encouraging, said Dr. Eliezer Maslaya of the National Institute of Aging. It gives you a lot of comfort that modifying one of the copies could be really helpful, at least in helping to delay the disease, he said. Now,
Okay,
anytime
that
someone
makes me
says
nervous.
modifying a gene, I get nervous because how do you know you're not making it worse? Already, some very early work is beginning to explore if certain treatments might include the protective mutation. More than 6 million Americans and an estimated 55 million people worldwide have Alzheimer's. Less than 1% of cases are like the Colombian families caused by a gene passed through generations that triggers the disease at unusually young ages. Alzheimer's usually is a disease of people over age 65. And while simply getting older is the main risk, the APOE gene has long been known to play some role. It comes in 3 main varieties. Carrying one copy of the notorious APOE4 gene increases the risk. And recent research found that having 2 copies of APOE4 can actually cause Alzheimer's in seniors. Another variety, APOE2, seems to reduce the risk, while APOE3 has long been considered neutral. My mind is spinning with all these letters. Ignore everything I just said. Just know that they're saying there's variants to the gene, and some of them cause people to get it earlier, some of them cause you to get it later. Then
Some have no effect at all.
I guarantee you there's plenty of people who have the gene who never get Alzheimer's. Then came discovery of Christchurch variants, seemingly protective role. Silent changes in the brain precede Alzheimer's symptoms by at least 2 decades. So 20 years before they get it, things start to change in the brain, including buildup of a sticky protein called amyloid or beta amyloid plaques, which we've reported on in the past podcast. Once it reaches certain levels, appears to trigger tangles of another protein called tau that kill brain cells. Earlier research has suggested something about the Christchurch variant impedes that tau transition.
Interesting.
Wednesday's study included brain scans from 2 people with a single Christchurch copy and autopsy analysis of 4 others who had died. Quiroz cautioned there is still a lot to learn about how a rare variant affects the underlying Alzheimer's process, including whether it affects the common old age type, but said tau and inflammation are among the suspects.
Yeah. I would be more concerned with making sure heavy metals are out of your diet and making sure.
Well, you know, your brain detoxifies those amyloid plaques when you sleep.
Right.
So it goes back to the previous article.
Yeah.
Make sure you have good quality sleep. Go to bed at the same time every night. Wake up around the same time every day.
Clean
and
your
have
diet
physical
up.
activity. Yep. And don't do your physical activity too late in the day. You want to talk about watermelons?
I love watermelon.
I know you do. I don't.
I know. I don't know what the problem is. Put a little bit of salt on it too. It's delicious.
It is delicious, but I don't know.
I'm actually a little addicted to hint watermelon water.
I see that.
I drink it a lot.
Well, we just advertised for them, so they better send us some money.
It's my favorite.
New York Times. How healthy is watermelon? Watermelon is the fruit of summer. In the United States, it's more popular than cantaloupe, honeydew, and all other melons combined.
Yeah, because it's awesome.
It says it's good for your body too, especially on a hot day. It's hydrating, it says.
Has a lot of water.
With the name water. Watermelon is a fitting name because it's more than 91% water.
That's pretty cool.
When you eat an average sized wedge, 10 ounces or so, you're effectively drinking a full cup of water. Hydration keeps the body functioning as it should from promoting blood flow to bowel regularity. The water in watermelon helps keep you hydrated, which can be extra beneficial in hot weather when you lose more fluids through sweat. Older people in particular may find it easier and more enjoyable to get some of their fluids through fruit, said Amy Ellis, a dietitian and associate professor of nutrition at the University of Alabama. It gets hot in Alabama, that's for sure.
That it does.
They tend to feel less thirsty and therefore drink less. One of the reasons they're at a higher risk for dehydration and heat-related illness during a heat wave. So if you're elderly, just remember, don't wait till you're thirsty to drink water. Eat some watermelon and drink a lot of water. It's not as sugary as you might think.
Yep.
Because watermelon is mostly water. It's also low in calories. A 1 cup serving has just 46 calories.
I know.
Some people think it's sky high in sugar because it tastes so sweet, but really it's very moderate. Dr. Ellis said 1 cup of diced watermelon contains about 9.5 grams of sugar, which is less than the 13 grams in a cup of chopped apples or the nearly 15 grams in a cup of blueberries. It likely won't cause spikes in blood sugar either.
Yeah.
Now remember, anytime sugar in fruit is fructose, not glucose. And they're different because fructose is more stored in your liver. Glucose is more stored in your muscles, but there's glucose stores in the liver as well. We've talked about that in the past, so I won't dig too far into it. When you eat watermelon as part of a balanced diet, the water content and sweet flavor could help you feel satiated. It's heart healthy, sodium free,
Unless you put salt on it like me.
fat free. Yeah, and that's the other thing is when did we decide sodium's so bad? When like everything in your body requires sodium to operate.
Yeah. Well, probably, I mean, our country is so good at eating processed foods, which have a very high sodium content.
That's true.
So maybe it's when we started eating all these processed foods that.
Yeah, sodium and potassium need to be balanced. Most of your nerves function on a sodium potassium pump channels.
And those are affected greatly by certain pharmaceuticals, which is why it's so hard to balance, those sodium and potassium levels because a lot of that's excreted. So
this was interesting. A couple of doctors all suggest that the amino acid L-citrulline and the micronutrient lycopene, both abundant in watermelon, could improve heart health. Scientists know that the kidneys convert L-citrulline into nitric oxide, which can relax your artery walls and lower blood pressure. And lycopene, a chemical found in certain plants, can reduce inflammation, which is linked to heart disease. People tend to associate lycopene with tomatoes, but watermelon has more.
And tomatoes are nightshades, where watermelon isn't. And
That's
some
true.
people have a sensitivity to nightshades, so.
Dr. Gundry is all against lycopenes, or was it something else? He was against something else. Either way, Dr. Gundry's done some work on tomatoes, and he says don't eat them. I don't know if I agree. It says, still independently funded human studies directly examining watermelon's effect on heart health have not shown measurable improvements. Watermelon is not a magic bullet, said Dr. Ellis, who led one of the studies. It's not going to displace blood pressure medication or anything like that. But if it's incorporated into a diet with nutrient-dense foods, it may be a good thing for vascular health. Forget all that. If you like watermelons, eat some.
Eat it.
That's right. So we didn't get to the last article.
You can always throw that in next
It's
time.
about organic foods. Bottom line is, I think you should eat organic. Some organic foods are very expensive, but so is being sick.
Yes.
So, anyways, good show. Talked about a lot of things.
We did.
And we got off tangent about cancer and genetics. Talked about
It's
Alzheimer's.
expected.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned, and hope you will apply some of this stuff, which means you sleep at the right time, you exercise regularly for activity, not cozy exercise
No.
from TikTok. That's different. Real exercise. And anyways, take care. God bless you. We love you. We thank you. We appreciate you.
We'll see
Come
you
back
next
and
time.
see us again.